All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the event. Yes. Welcome to the AI for Designer 26, which means that it's the 26th edition. It's been a while that we are running these meetups. Thank you so much for your attendance. We are very happy to have you tonight. May I ask who is here for the first time? All right, welcome. Welcome to the regular as well. My name is Alison and I will be your host tonight. So I'm part of the AI user group. The AI user group is a community of professionals and we are trying to showcase the latest AI tool in the market for three verticals: designers, marketers, and developers. Tonight, this meetup sits right in the middle between designing and marketing fields. Why? Because nowadays, designers aren't just creating things to look good, they are also trying to create for engaging with an audience, having performance results, and resonate. Same with marketers. They are exploring design thinking tools to create standout campaign. So that's why we're going to do tonight and showcase with a lineup of 4 speakers. Just taking my breath. We were also Miro Shipra from Miro. She was supposed to be here tonight, so I'm sorry she's sick, she won't be here, but we will do an event together in the very near future, I hope. So bear with us and please add us on your Luma account. We are the AA user group and you'll see all our upcoming projects together. All right, so next slide. This space is called the Digital Jungle and we run events. So if tomorrow you have a project, you want to upscale your community event spaces, please come talk to me because this space can house up to 250 people. We have 2 studio podcast room and we are specialized in live streaming with very high-end equipment. So please come talk to me at the end of the meeting. Also, we're always looking for speakers, so same, come talk to me if you want to share your relationship with this technology. If you have a product you would like to share, it's a great space to showcase what you do. So, the lineup for today. First of all, we'll have Andrea Tortella. He's a founder and CEO of Thrads.
The Thrads, yeah.
Thrads, yeah. He will talk about creativity in the vibe marketing era. Then we'll have Adish Jain, CEO of Mosaic. He will talk about Agentic workflows for video editing. Then we'll have Dave Elving. He's a teacher at the University California of Arts, and he will explore the role of AI in design strategy. And we will wrap up with Kevin. He will show us how Dust can speed up your user research in a minute. Yes, you read it right. And then we always have a moment for community announcements. So you will be able to come here and take the mic for 1 minute and talk about something you're launching or anything you would like to share with the community. All right, so yeah. One more slide. It's something very simple. It's just we have some house guidelines. So tonight we'll be closing at 9 p.m. Please keep that in mind. And let's kick off the night. First speakers, let's give him a warm welcome, Andrea Tortella.
Thank you, Alison. Well, first of all, I wanted to say how excited I am to be in a room full of designers as a marketer. I definitely do not feel in anime territory. But to kind of settle the beef today between designers and marketers, I actually wanted to make an acknowledgement and to speak on behalf of the marketing world of how grateful we are for the design industry and for designers and the whole room in here because we wouldn't go a very long way without you. And so today I'll actually tell you a bit about what we're doing in the marketing world. And specifically what we're doing at Thrads. We're trying to build a vibe marketing platform, right? We're all familiar with vibe coding, where non-coders are able to code. We're trying to do the same thing with marketers, enable non-marketers to code and market where in AI environments, right? And so what we're doing at Thrads is we're building ad tech infrastructure to help developers who have chatbots, who want to monetize with ads, make their products more accessible, monetize with ads, and then help brands and advertisers advertise in those environments. Advertisers want to reach users where they're the most engaged. They want to follow the eyeballs. And so that's what we do. Basically, we just put ads in chatbots. And so this is what it looks like. You have your chatbots. You can type anything you want here, or you can take a suggested question, and then the chatbot is going to tell me to do some push-ups, which I already know, and then I inject the ad, and that's it. Why this is so exciting is that this ad format is one of the most powerful and performing ad formats in the world, where we get super high performance and click-through rates. We get click-through rates that reach 15%. And so the reason why we can get those crazy numbers is because we have a lot of data. By being in the chatbots, we have so much data from the prompts. People type their whole lives in those prompts, right? Instead of typing just a few keywords on Google search. In a chatbot, people type super long prompts that give us a lot of semantic data, intent data, contextual data, first-party data, metadata, and so that's super helpful for us to make amazing ads from. Second major thing is that we make those ads in real time. So the way that all companies in the world today do marketing is that first they make an ad, they define who their ICP is, and then they target those people, right? Whether the ad is AI generated or not, it's still done in the past, and then the same ad reaches hundreds of people, thousands of people. And so what we do is that we make the ad in real time for every single conversation. So every time you're going to speak with a chatbot, we generate the ad as a response to the conversation that you have above, plus their previous conversation, and so on. And so that's about it. Where do we serve those ads? Well, we partner with basically rappers, right? You have so many vertical consumer AI apps, right? Like an AI mental health assistant, an AI financial advisor, an AI cooking assistant, an AI travel agent, right? The travel agent is going to book your flight to SF, is going to book your hotel, and I'm going to show you an ad for someone in tech because your old tech is here. So yeah, that's us at Thrads. Thanks so much. Any questions from the room? Yeah.
It's, do you have a question?
Thrads.ai.
I have a clarifying question. So users can go to Thrads.ai and use the chatbot?
We don't build chatbots. We help developers make money with ads. So like if you're a chatbot, most of your users don't pay for the product. Usually it's like 95% of users don't pay for it. And so we help you monetize those free users with user-friendly ads.
So if you're like, let's say Gemini was a startup,
right?
You could integrate the ad into any query.
That's right. Yeah.
Result. Yeah.
So it's an API that you integrate. It's really quick. It just takes a few minutes to set up, and we're gonna send you a lot of money.
Great. Thank you.
So quick question, what's your RPM, what's your compute cost per query versus a traditional display, and yeah, what kind of cut are you getting from publishers?
In terms of our unit economics, or?
Yeah, so like what kind of RPMs are you giving publishers, and then what percentage are you arbitraging between
So publishers monetize on a CPC basis, so every time a user clicks your ad, that's when you monetize.
But that's the payout, but I mean, like there's an average RPM as well across your network, right?
What do you mean?
So for example, like people might get paid, say 40 cents or 80 cents per click, but then per impression, there's like an average that you get across your network.
So developers don't need to spend anything.
Yes, but I'm just kind of saying like, what's your performance? That way people can compare your ad network to AdMob and other providers.
Performance in what terms?
In terms of RPM for publishers, on average.
What do you mean by RPM?
Your average payout per 1,000 views.
So it's based on clicks, and so we have on average 10% click-through rate, and the clicks are between 50 cents to $2. So you can actually go on our website and calculate how much money you're gonna make.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Hi, I have two questions actually. So like the first one is, how do you ensure like the qualities of the ads that coming in? And two, I think OpenAI might be considering like adding ads to like their services, right?
Sure.
So would that be your direct competitors in a way? And how do you guys like approach like, you know, what is your like?
Yeah,
selling
for
point?
sure. So I'll take the last question first. In terms of OpenAI, I mean, we'd be super happy for them to do that. It's gonna make their services more accessible, cheaper. So it doesn't compete in the sense that OpenAI is not a customer, and we're doing that for the open web. Like, you know, probably those 5 companies are gonna build their own ad tech infrastructure. We're doing it for companies that cannot and will not do that themselves, and so, yeah, that's whom we're serving. Yeah. Then what was the first question again?
The first was like, how do you ensure like the qualities like the
Oh yeah,
ads
so
submitted?
in terms of brand safety for advertisers, well, actually I can show you this. The way that you actually advertise is really simple. The way that you create a campaign, you can simply upload your campaign brief. So you ask like, hey ChatGPT, make a campaign for my watch brand, and it's gonna do it. You give me the campaign brief, a document, that's it, you're done. You can literally spend $1 million with one click. And in terms of brand safety, well, you can upload your brand book, your brand identity, any brand asset, and so the ads are gonna be generated accordingly.
So like qualities like assures like the number of like contacts or like.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can actually track all of those, and you can see every creative that was served, and you can tell us, okay, well, I didn't actually like this ad. It doesn't reflect my brand that well. And then, you know, the system prompt gets adjusted based on that.
Thank you so much.
Any other question? All right. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much.
Adrian, for showing us Thrads.
We're looking for designers as well to join us. So please scan my LinkedIn and reach out, guys.
Yes. Next speaker on stage, let's welcome Adish from Mosaic. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Hello? Hello? Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Allison and AI User Group for putting this together. My name is Adish. I am the founder and CEO of Mosaic. And with Mosaic, what we're really trying to do is think a couple years into the future and imagine what video editing is going to look like in this new agentic era that is upon us. I'll tell you what we offer our users today. So what we offer our users today is this tile-based canvas where you can drag and drop these different tiles, connect them together to define these utility-based agentic workflows. And then you can kind of run them on autopilot as a background process. You can trigger them programmatically. We have a bunch of integrations to help you 10x your content output. And the idea is once you define these are these multimodal agentic workflows that can really just do the manual editing, kind of tedious, laborious tasks that are involved in creating content today. And I'd love to demo that for you, but before I get to that, I want to kind of motivate this in terms of why we're working on this. So it's kind of a funny backstory I like to share. I was actually an engineer at Tesla. I was working down in Palo Alto. That's where I actually met my co-founder. And we had this idea one day to go around and count Cybertrucks. This was when the Cybertruck had just come out. It was still a pretty novel vehicle at the time. And to make this a viral video, the idea was for every Cybertruck that we spot, we will buy a share of Tesla stock. And this was, completely unrelated to our work, just like a creative endeavor for us, right? So we went around Palo Alto, recorded hours of these cars just driving by, came back, and then it kind of dawned on us, well, now we actually got to scrub through all of this footage, like find when these Cybertrucks appear, add a counter, update it. It's like a very manual, tedious process for what is actually like a seemingly simple edit to describe in like just a couple words, right? And so, we as software engineers had been using Cursor more and more for our own development work, and we thought, well, what if we built Cursor for video editing? And so what we started off with was this type of chat-based approach to, video editing, and very inspired by Cursor, we kind of took your traditional nonlinear editor interface and integrated this chat copilot. And the idea was this AI copilot can see your video, it can hear your video, and it can automate edits based on kind of what it sees and hears. So in this example, you can tell it this vague prompt, add text over each of their heads that says their names, and it will actually analyze the video, figure out who's in the video, what their names are, where they are, and be able to figure out, okay, like where should I put these text overlays? And so this was really cool. It actually took that Cybertruck counting example that we started with and reduced it from the many hours it would have taken us to scrub through all this footage down to a mere chat prompt. And that was a huge unlock that we can actually leverage multimodal AI capabilities to automate video editing. But obviously I'm speaking to a crowd of designers. There's a huge UX problem here, right? And the UX problem here is that while chat is kind of ubiquitous for interactions with AI today, I think products like ChatGPT and Cursor kind of trailblaze that. When it comes to processing video quickly, you have this technical constraint where file sizes can just be really, really big, right? And then you have to kind of inference and tokenize the video, which can take a long time. And when you have this inherent prompt response UX that's kind of baked into chat, it kind of breaks down. And so, as we navigated this idea maze, what we came to was this, tile-based approach where you could actually define a sequence of tiles, and that could become your agent. And now this can run as a background process, and you're no longer constrained by this kind of prompt response UX that chat is constrained to. And so enough of the backstory, let me kind of get into what this actually looks like. So this is Mosaic. The idea is, you can come in here, you can start with a template, and we have many of these just out of the box for a lot of the kind of common use cases that people might have. You can also just go and define, your own Mosaic here. And so you have the ability to, upload videos here. Also, if you just want to start off with a YouTube link, you could do that. And then you can just drag and drop these different tiles, connect them together, and that becomes your Mosaic. And so, maybe I want to create a couple different shorts from, maybe a longer podcast here. And so I can simply just drag and drop them. And the cool part here is I can actually configure each of these shorts and be very specific about, the particular moment I want to pull out. So maybe I'm going to take this webcast later and try to find the particular moment, Adish demos Mosaic. And it will be able to find that particular moment from this longer, webcast, webinar, podcast, whatever it is. You can actually specify how long of an output you want. So maybe I want it to be a longer form, maybe 5-minute video. And then I can also just be generic. I could just say, hey, find the most interesting moments. I still hope it'll find, the moment that I'm talking, because I find my demo to be interesting. But once you've found this clip, you can now connect these other nodes to it. So maybe I want to add some B-roll to this, and the B-roll tile is pretty cool. You have all of these different options here. You can actually specify AI generation, and what the agent will do is it'll actually go through your footage, understand the context of what is being discussed, and then actually in real time generate assets that kind of line up with what you're talking about. We also have the ability for you to go and define your own library of brand assets, which the agent can source from. And we have all sorts of image and video models that you can select from. Veo 3 has been a more popular one these days. And all sorts of other tiles here. I think captions is another kind of just easy win to create like more engaging content. all sorts of controls in terms of, what style of animation you want, what colors, so on and so forth. So I won't belabor the point, but the idea is once you've created this mosaic, you can now save this, and now it's a reusable template that you can rerun for your next podcast or your next webinar or your next conference. You can also trigger this programmatically. So we have an API. So if you want to, leverage N8N or Make or Clay or whatever automation framework you're using and trigger these programmatically, you can do that. By the end of the week, we're also going to have social integrations. So the idea is you can actually trigger this whole agent workflow by connecting it to your Dropbox or your YouTube or your Google Drive, and it will constantly be listening for when a new asset hits that Dropbox folder, automatically run this entire workflow for you, create some edited outputs, and then we can actually schedule the social distribution of that content out to your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your X. So you can really think of this as a content engine, which now you can use to 10x or 100x your content. And so let me show you a couple examples as to what this actually results in. So these are all from actual users whose permission I got to demo. So this is one of our users. He makes this kind of talking head style content, and I'll show you just what the raw footage looks like here. This is about a 15-minute video, and I'll just play that for you.
Making money on YouTube isn't that hard, and I'm going to prove it to you by posting once per day for 21 days on this almost new channel. YouTube isn't that hard, and I'm going to prove it to you by posting.
So if you've ever, sat in front of a camera and recorded yourself, you've probably felt this where you've kind of recalibrated, maybe had some multiple takes, probably like recalibrated with the script and then come back and then take the take again. And so what you can do, oh, whoops, sorry, one sec. Yeah, no worries. Cool, okay, we are back. So what you can do now is you could just say, hey, agent, remove the bad takes. And what the agent will do is it'll go through all the footage, find all of the good parts, stitch them together into one salient, cohesive narrative. And then what we want to do is, we want to enhance the audio here, so we can do that. And then we want to add some captions. And I'll show you just what the output here looks like.
YouTube isn't that hard, and I'm going to prove it to you by posting once a day for 22 days on this channel that only has a few videos. I'm going to be taking Gabe Bolt's challenge of posting 21 days to make your first dollar through YouTube. Now his audience was
cool, and it just did this completely on autopilot. So I found like the 5 minutes that are kind of the most salient here, enhanced the audio, added captions. But now the really cool part is you can actually jump into a timeline view and tweak and polish everything at a more granular level, right? So if maybe some transcription here was incorrect, I can correct that. Maybe I want to add a comma here, so I can go ahead and do that. I can save that. I can add text wherever I want, and we'll be enabling a bunch more features here, but we're not trying to recreate the wheel, so we'll also allow you to take this and go to DaVinci, Final Cut, Premiere Pro, export the XML, and then go apply your more advanced color grading techniques or whatever have you. So we don't want to constrain you, we want to enable you. So this is just one example for talking head style content. It's great. Let me show you maybe a couple more here. So this is another example where, this is another talking head style video with a couple bad takes in the beginning. It's at a construction site, so it's quite noisy. Let me just play a little bit of that for you.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Nah, it's all good.
Good job. Can you introduce just yourself, Michael, and like what you do, what your role is?
So my name is Michael Doe. I'm project manager at EQ. Sorry. Can I start again?
I'll get you to take a step back. Is that too bright for you?
No, it's all right.
That's right, yeah. Cool. I'll get you to do that again.
Yep. In our in-house design, I'm a project manager at BKH Group.
Camera.
Yeah, right.
Is that easier?
Yeah, that's easier.
So a lot of back and forth here, a lot of retakes, very noisy background. So what the agent did is, again, remove the bad takes And then we, remove the silences, we remove the filler words, we enhance the audio, we reframed it into a 9:16 aspect ratio, which is really great if you want to repurpose your content for different platforms. And this uses active speaker detection. So if you're in an interview style or a podcast, it'll actively focus on the right person. And then we added some AI music. And again, the agent is actually going to do, and you can actually see what the agent is doing here. It's actually thinking through what kind of music would really kind of fit the background here. And it calls it the Professional Project Progress Background Music Soundtrack. And that's what it goes ahead and adds to the background. And then we add some captions. And I'll kind of show you what the final result looks like for this one. So let me just go ahead and play that here.
My name is Michael Doe. I'm a project manager at BKH Group. Day-to-day, I look after projecting and engineering between our in-house site teams and the builders.
Where are we today?
Today, we're at EQ1. One is situated in Bolton Hills, 443 units over 37 floors.
What's the current?
Cool, so found the 2 minutes that are kind of the most salient here, cleaned it up, added captions, added some music, great. Let me show you maybe one or two more examples here. So this was one where we took a professional kind of cooking show out in Australia, and they wanted to use Mosaic to create some social cut downs of this content. Let me show you the raw footage again here.
Impressive dishes without breaking the bank. Plus, I'll show you my shopping hacks and storage tips to make your groceries go even further.
Great, and so what they wanted to do is create these two shorts. The first one, they wanted to find the particular moments she's talking about the recipe for caramelized peaches, and let me show you what that output looks like.
Into our peaches, we're going to add a little bit of brown sugar, just about a tablespoon, and this is going to help it get nice and caramelized in our hot pan. And then we're going to lather our peaches in that delicious olive oil.
And so the cool part here is you can be super specific and find these moments, but the other thing is that you can find non-contiguous parts of the video and stitch it together. And when I say you, it's really the agent that's doing this. So, if you're talking about caramelized peaches and then you start talking about rabbits and then you come back to talking about caramelized peaches, it can find those parts, stitch them together into one cohesive narrative. And while it's doing that, you can actually evaluate, how it's doing that. So it's going through, it's finding the parts that relate to caramelized peaches, but then it's actually watching the video back based on the cuts it's made to ensure that there's no abrupt cuts, that it's starting and ending with complete sentences. And that's often, the gripe with clipping tools today, that it doesn't convey a cohesive narrative. It starts in the middle of a word. And so there are actually QA steps that the agent is taking, and that's really where the agentic piece of this comes into play. Here's another use case for them where they wanted to show Sunbeam, which is the brand that was sponsoring the show, and create some social cutdowns that show the Sunbeam cookware products that were being used. And let me just show you what that looked like.
We're going to start our beautiful peach and bocconcini salad by toasting some pine nuts in our Sunbeam skillet. There we go, just on a medium-high heat, and just until they're nice and toasty. Very, very simple to make, but also incredibly delicious. We're going to use our Sunbeam slow cooker, and we're going to cook our condensed milk in our slow cooker.
Great, so it's able to find and identify those moments as well. I'll show you maybe just one final example just to show you that you can get pretty complex with these. So this is a long-form podcast that we took. This is Gary, one of the partners at Y Combinator. And what we did is we split into these 3 different branches, all of which are running in parallel, simultaneously producing different edits of my video. In the first branch, what I said is, hey, find and cut out all the moments where the guy with the glasses is talking. And because it's this multimodal agent, I can give it this visual cue, and it can find and identify and then cut these moments out. And then what I said is, hey, I want to add some AI-generated B-roll. I want smooth and cinematic shots. I want to use these image and video models. And then, again, the agent will do the work of finding where these moments are that it should add B-roll to. And I'll show you what that looked like.
Right now, if you're building a startup, working on cutting edge AI, even if you haven't found the right idea yet, why give up and go back to Google or college?
Cool, so I added this B-roll, it cut out the moments at the beginning where Gary was talking, and like I said before, I can actually go tweak and polish this, so maybe I wanted that B-roll to appear just a bit earlier, right? In the second branch, something completely different is happening. So here we're saying, hey, find and this time actually keep the moments where the guy with the glasses is talking, so it's kind of doing the inverse of the other branch, and then let's reframe that into a 9:16 aspect ratio. Let's maybe we branch off again and now localize our content into a couple different languages so everyone both in Spain and in France can understand what Gary is talking about. And then let's add some captions and I'll show you what this looks like.
Está pasando algo, no me gusta eso, déjame ir hasta el fondo, salir a ese mundo exterior y desde los principios básicos entender la causa raíz. Ahí descubrirás cosas.
Cool, so you can still hear Gary in Spanish, and I know that y'all are French here, so I'll play the French version as well.
Quelque chose, ça ne me plaît pas, je veux aller jusqu'au bout, explorer le monde extérieur et comprendre.
Cool. And then I'll just show you this final branch where, we're saying, hey, let's create a short about when he talks about AI Startup School. Let's add a background, in this case, the YC logo, but you could specify any image, any video, any color. And then let's add some AI music, right? And maybe I only want that for the first 15 or so seconds, so I can just go ahead and easily delete that for the rest, and then just
I have news for you guys. YC is throwing our first ever AI Startup School in San Francisco on June 16th and 17th. Elon Musk, Satya.
Great, so I found that moment, added these background medias. And so that's the idea with Mosaic. You can define these mosaics as templates, rerun them programmatically. We do have an API, again, like I mentioned before. And so yeah, if you're interested in 10xing your content game, follow us on X. This is our website here. You can contact me as well. And that's about it.
Thank you so much, Adish. Yeah, such a great demo. So versatile. I'm looking forward to trying it. And if I want to try it, what do I do?
Yes, thank you. That is a great question. So if you want to try it, we are in a closed beta right now. We're hoping to go general access hopefully soon, but I won't say a date just yet. But if you are interested, sign up to our waitlist by going to the website. Just mention in the waitlist forum that you were at AI user group, and we will try to expedite access for you. Yeah.
Yeah, hashtag AI user group. Any question? Yeah. No question? Yeah.
I will also mention that we are looking for full stack and front end design engineers or product engineers. So if you are interested, please do talk to me.
So what's the price of processing a 1 minute video for now?
Our price or your price?
Yeah. If I use it.
Yeah, so it really is very cheap when it comes to the actual inference costs. Like Gemini is 0.0075 cents per million tokens of video processing. So that part is cheap. Now, if you want to add B-roll to a minute video and you want to add 10 B-rolls, that's going to cost you a lot, right? So it really depends on what operations you want to do in that minute.
Question? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Adish.
Is it one more? Or?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. First of all, congrats. I mean, I want to be a beta tester as well. Is this for export as well? I mean, you can export from the platform or?
Yeah, like I said before, you can export from the platform. So you would be able to come in and go into the timeline view and export to DaVinci, Final Cut, Premiere. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, maybe I was wrong. Export as the final video, like MP4 or final video version from here.
So you're asking whether you can export it from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you could just export and you could take this and be on your way. And like I said, we'll also have the social integration. So we'll be able to schedule posts out to your TikTok, your X, your LinkedIn with AI generated captions that you can configure to personify how you might, create a caption.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi there, this is great. I have a question for the design audience here. What are some new kind of design patterns that you guys kind of found along the way in your journey from a chat-based interface to this infinite canvas type of thing? Are there some kind of aha moments you had with design and interaction?
Yeah, I think the big one was going from that ubiquitous chat interface to something that is much more, I would say, revolutionary, at least when it comes to video editing. And obviously there are some Nuke, right? For example, for VFX, there are some node-based, tools out there for video editing, but I think this is the first one I've seen, at least, where we're really taking a new approach, new UI UX paradigm for video editing in particular. I think the other thing is also, how do you cohesively go between automations, which a lot of people want, and then balance that with granular level control, where people maybe want to tweak and polish things or want frame by frame level detail and granularity. And so the way we're doing that right now is, again, you have a canvas, you can open up a timeline and kind of go back and forth between the two. But a lot of this is also kind of being rethought, because this is still not, there's still points of friction here, right? And so definitely a lot of work to do here, which is why we're looking for designer product engineers to join us.
Thank you. Let's
Okay.
give Adish a warm round of applause. Yes, our next speaker is Elving, adjunct professor at the College of the California College of sorry, how do I say it correctly? The California College of the Arts. Let's give him a round of applause.
Plugging in your computer initially is always the most stressful part of this. No. Okay, cool. Wait, let me I'm starting at the end. Let me start here at the beginning. Cool. I really love that you all are at these little desks with the, like we had in college and grade school. I noticed that when I walked in. And I was sitting in the back with the cool kids. I heard you chatting about it as you came in. This reminds me of when I used to be a teacher at the University of Illinois at Chicago, where I was a TA, and it was first where I discovered an interest in teaching. So it's not my first time being in front of hundreds of these little desks. So I wasn't sure what title to use for this presentation. It's certainly about design strategy and AI, but it applies just as much to a design process called design thinking, which I'm sure all of you, or many of you, are familiar with. And I finally decided, the best way for me to entitle this talk is to just say it's about teaching with AI. As was mentioned, I am currently an adjunct professor at the California College of the Arts. More on that later. First, I wanted to see if I could get to know you all a little bit better. Does anybody self-identify as a user experience or interaction designer? See any hands up? I see a handful. Okay. Any Figma users out here? All right. I see a lot of those. How many people have built prototypes and wireframes with tools like Figma? Cool. All right. I feel like I'm in the right place talking to my people. So I'll tell you a little bit more about who I am. My name is Dave Elving. I am an adjunct professor of interaction design at the California College of the Arts here in San Francisco. We have an interaction design program where we teach the fundamentals of how to do problem solving and thinking through interactive experiences. I'm also a board member and occasional teaching assistant at Gray Area. It's a foundation for the arts here in San Francisco as well, located down in the Mission. And that's where I've been able to work with some really incredible artists and do some creative coding with AI. And years ago, I used to work in UX for Apple on their interactive marketing team. So I did a lot of work on Apple's website for many years. And this was a time when we were coming to understand how we had to adjust our design patterns and UX thinking for mobile. It was the design challenge of its day. Now I think we're trying to catch up with what does AI mean for some of our UX experiences. Anyway, I'm coming to you this time as a teacher, and I've had the pleasure of speaking about my class twice before. Once here at the AI user group. Thank you again for having me back. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about my teaching with AI and to engage in a conversation with you about what that future might look like. So I've spoken twice previously. I thought I'd catch you up a little bit on what I've been able to speak about before. The first time I talked about AI in the classroom was in 2022. And it was while I was teaching a class called Objects and Spaces at the California College of the Arts. And one of the units that I was teaching was having students think through what could be a motion controller, right? What if we used our hands, or in this case, I had my students design something using the accelerometer in all of their phones. And this was right in the middle of the semester when ChatGPT 4 was announced. And I knew right away that I would need to incorporate this into my teaching. And I was really curious what that would look like. And I'll skip to the end. What happened was my students and I, we designed an immersive music experience. And you can see he's holding an iPhone. We tie the accelerometer of the iPhone to a music visualization. And together we defined what sort of gestures should control that experience and change the tracks and things like that. And as you raise the phone up, these patterns would change. Each student was able to use ChatGPT 4 at the time to change that pattern to reflect their own aesthetic. It was what we might call vibe coding, but I had to do a lot of hand-holding. What I learned from this experience was that, at least in the realm of coding, this was just a superpower. It took my basic understanding of creative coding and just multiplied it so many times. And it allowed my students to explore and exceed their expectations and create something real, not just a hypothetical interface, but actually something that responded to how they use their phone. So it was really fun to talk about that success story. And it's what made me realize that, along with everything else, using AI tools is going to be a fundamental part of teaching. The second time I spoke about my class was here at the AI user group. I want to say it was last year, about this time in June. And after seeing a lot of cool demos at various places around town, and of course at gatherings like this, I'd seen a lot of really neat examples of wireframes and prototypes being built with a prompt. And at the time, we were really excited about what Figma was coming out with. But as some of you might remember, around this time last year, maybe a little bit before, Figma got in a little bit of trouble. There was a designer who typed in a very simple prompt: make a not boring weather app. And Figma immediately spat out a very detailed and precise copy of Apple's weather app. And so they pulled that functionality from Figma briefly. They've since rolled it back in a way that I think makes a lot more sense and is a lot more constructive. They show how they can use Figma Maker to make elements of an app instead of outsourcing the whole app. But at the time, this got them in a bit of trouble. They rolled back that feature, and my class ended up doing wireframes kind of the old school way. So I was planning to talk about how I teach UX in an era when anybody can spit out wireframes with a prompt. I ended up giving an impassioned, supporting rallying cry for design processes and design thinking, even as we have AI. So I can build on that a little bit today. Which takes us to today. Now, with my class just last semester, I wanted to see how far has prototyping with AI come. I expect and encourage my students every semester to explore new possibilities, new tools, whatever they can find to make their ideas more real, faster. And so I did that this semester, and I wanted to follow up on my last presentation and share with all of you the success we've had. And I'll give you a preview. It was pretty good, but it wasn't great, and I think we have a ways to go, but I know it's happening. The other update and learning in my teaching recently that I wanted to share with you was using AI for user testing. And this is where I really was impressed with the product. I will tell you in advance, I'm a teacher. I will be mentioning a couple products in this presentation, but I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I just was using them and learning from them. So these are not endorsements, and I'd be curious to learn more about what you all are using. So an update on the state of AI prototyping and some thoughts on AI and user testing. Before I go too much further, I want to share with you how I structure my classes at CCA. I teach 2 classes, one each semester. The first one is an introductory course for students who have just declared their major. It's called Foundations of Interaction Design. It's a good first class. The second one is a class that's somewhat confusingly called Behavior. In that class, we look at how design patterns can influence us and how we can design to influence other people. And as we explore these concepts in UX design, I follow a pattern called design thinking. You may have seen this referred to as human-centered design. Many of you have probably seen some version of some infographic like this. It's often pioneered and credited to design teams like IDEO, but you'll find some version of this in many design shops and lots of design schools. And it's meant to be a multi-stage process where we begin by understanding people, the people who we are trying to solve a real-world lived experience problem for. We define a problem. This is something that I think is difficult to do in the era of AI. Sometimes people will write a prompt and say, make me an app that delivers pizzas in a cool way, but they haven't really defined a problem. And so I think that's a skill of itself that I work through my students. After we understand people, let's really define what is the problem that we're trying to solve and consider solutions for it. I'll come back to this in a second. The third phase is ideating. This is where we think through a whole lot of different ideas. Maybe we get some sticky notes, we do some crazy stuff, but pretty soon we hone in on what are things we can actually build with the constraints that we face. And that's where Figma and wireframing and sketching and prototyping come in. And this is usually where I kind of leave my classes. I want them to think through an idea, justify it, create that first really well thought out prototype, and then usually I end up talking about testing. I don't get to go deep on it. That actually changed in this last semester. So I'll come back to this again, but when I talk about design, I'm not talking about something abstract. I'm talking about a process, and that process is broadly structured like this. We understand people, we define a problem, we iterate on all sorts of creative possible solutions for that. We make a prototype to make it as real as possible, and then we can test that, understand that. All of this with the intent that we don't just spin our wheels, but that we actually ship something that works within the constraints that we face. This process has taken a little bit of heat over the years. I think sometimes we use this as sort of a performative UX experience, right? It's easy to get caught up in empathizing with people and letting interviews guide your entire process. Or you create a lot of artifacts based on this process, but you're not actually shipping something that can work. I've had friends in the industry who get frustrated when they put together this incredible pitch for a client, only to find that it wasn't actually feasible to build and what they designed never actually existed. So I treat this process as a tool, and it's a tool that we use as a means to an end. And I think that also applies to the AI systems we use. So notice an example of what we build in my class. In my foundations class, I always pick something that folks can go out and study and understand and maybe come up with some better ideas for. And the California College of Art is located kind of at the bottom of Potrero Hill, not too far from Chase Center in the design district. Parking is difficult. There's a lot of parking meters. Students know what parking meters are. So we do some research. We go out and watch how people use parking meters, and then together as a class, using that design process, each student comes up with a new take on parking meters. So this is one example state of one wireframe from a student. This was from Grace. So an example of the work we do with the design process in my foundations class. Over here, this is an example from my behavior class. And I chose this because I think it's really beautiful, but also something that would be very difficult to just get at through prompting. In my behavior class, I have every student, we work together, but they're responsible for coming up with their own solution. I give them this really broad problem. How can we help students like you get better sleep? That's a huge, complicated problem that has many, many, many possible solutions and causes and so on. It's a really fertile area to explore if you want to create an app that helps people get more sleep. I define their project to be an app because to use the design process, to use AI tools, I try to constrain their thinking just for this project. It doesn't have to be an app, but for our class, that really focuses the interactions that they try to build. So this is work from Clarice. She built this beautiful app that kind of personifies the act of sleeping. And every time you go to sleep, this character goes on a journey. And she realized that the biggest impediment to sleep is when people pick up their phones because they can't sleep or because they don't want to go to sleep. So she had it on a timer that if you picked up your phone in the middle of the night, you'd be interrupting this person who's on this journey, and you would see these passport stamps fill up and so on. I could do a whole talk just about student work. I just wanted to show these examples for the kind of work that my students do in class and that they're starting to enhance with AI. So today, and the things I want to share with you that I've learned most recently in my teaching, I want to talk about prototyping and testing. I mentioned early on that my first plan to teach with rapid prototyping via AI, it didn't really work. We kind of scaled back. But this year, I really wanted to see if it could work, and it was fun to push students to explore on their own. So I wanted to give you an update on that. And then testing, user testing with AI. This was something that to me was quite profound and really empowering. So I'll share a little bit about how my students approached this recently. I'll start with prototyping. one of the things that I really believe in my classes and in my discipline is that no matter what tools we're using, whether you're going to do everything in Photoshop, whether you're going to send everything to an AI, whether you're getting your ideas ready to maybe take to an agency or to a venture capitalist to pitch your idea to, you need to start by visualizing what your product or service actually is. How does it exist in the world? And to do that, I really encourage my students and some clients to pause and think, what are the critical moments when your idea intersects with people's actual lives? And this is a tough skill to learn, sketching, when you haven't had a lot of experience. So I try to break the ice with my students by giving them a sample to work through. And in this case, for my behavior class, we together came up with a quick idea and just a couple key terrible sketches by me on the whiteboard of how could we help people drink more water. Those of you who have been around design for a while, you probably remember when we were talking about skeuomorphism all the time. Nowadays, after a long time of making things cleaner and simpler, students are being drawn towards sort of analog skeuomorphic ideas. So together with students, they were like, well, what if we had an app that showed an empty cup of water, and over time, it encouraged you, maybe with a pop-up, to drink more water at this particular time during the day, and maybe that glass could get a little bit bigger, more filled with water, and maybe there's a calendar view where I can see each day that I've hit my water drinking goals. There are apps like this that probably exist. What was interesting about what we sketched, though, is that you could put all of this into a prompt, but in order to get something like this from an AI system, you need a prompt, you need a sketch, we need to generate these multimodal kinds of input to get good thinking out. And not thinking, but good results out from our thinking. And so I have my students sketch, I teach them how to sketch, and as an experiment, we took these sketches and tried to see, all right, can we generate wireframes that we can use to make a demo from these initial sketches? And the results were kind of okay. From ChatGPT, we uploaded that sketch along with, I don't know, 2 or 3 sentences in prompting of how we wanted it to work. And it created something that wasn't too far removed from our wireframe of drinking more water. We also tried Claude with the HTML plugin. One of the problems we ran into with ChatGPT is that while it generated an image of wireframes for us, it didn't generate something that we could actually open up in Figma and start using. So I think this is a problem that other folks are solving. Figma themselves are obviously working on this as well. But it wasn't much good for us to just get these static images. We needed something that we could tweak and change and test. We had slightly better results when we used Claude with this HTML plugin, using the same really, kind of deliberately on my part, really rough sketches along with some sentences of prompting. We were able to get, in my opinion, not quite as good wireframes, but in some respects they were a little better if you picked and choose. What was nice is that there was an HTML plugin that generated CSS that we could then copy and paste into Figma, and now I could use this AI-generated wireframe in Figma. It was cool, but in practice my students discovered, most of them, that it was easier to go back to designing their wireframes in the more straightforward way. Get a template that's pretty close, draw some simple graphics that work for what you want. It was faster to build wireframes and connect them into a demo without using AI. I suspect that's changing. So last year when I spoke, I really felt that prototyping quickly and effectively with AI hadn't happened. I was a little bit disappointed. This time around, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, but I expected us to be a little bit further along, and I suspect some of you are working with systems that probably work better than this. I'd love to hear about them. But I think we're really close to being able to take our sketches, maybe take some information from interviews we've done, take some product requirements that we have thought through ahead of time in order to give multimodal, additive prompts to tools to generate our wireframes. I've been using this word lately. I don't know if it's going to stick, but this idea of giving a prompt, of giving a sketch that's additive, meaning I'm seeing students and sometimes clients go straight to AI and expecting it to sort of solve the problem for them. In other words, they're kind of outsourcing the creative act to AI systems. Make me an app that helps people drink more water. To me, that's not an additive or useful prompt. But if I have this idea of a skeuomorphic app with sloshing drinking water that gets, increasingly full throughout the day and sends me notifications at a certain time, and I can make some sketches and write some, not just prompts, but some thoughtful requirements from my experience. Now I'm generating something that gives, I think, important context to whatever AI system that we're using. And now we can start to use them more effectively to generate more and more thoughtful ideas. And this is what I'm working on with my students as we approach this. I think it will become more and more easy for them to type a simple prompt and get a set of wireframes. And it might be kind of okay, but doing so, again, outsources the creative act, and it now has, my students are using AI to generate ideas instead of using AI to realize their ideas. And I think we get at that by making sure we're making additive multimodal prompts with sketches and thinking and words and interviews that we've actually done the homework instead of just assuming that AI will figure that out. So I think we're almost there, and I'm excited to sort of test this process of how do we make good, thoughtful prompts that respect and reflect our point of view as designers, and then realize things more quickly with AI. So I think we're almost there. That's my update on prototyping in my classroom for now. I hope I get to come back and talk about it more. The last thing I wanted to talk about briefly was this idea of research. So I had the pleasure of going to a meetup like this, and I ran into a group of startup folks from Listen Labs. And they gave a demo that I thought was deeply, deeply interesting. This is a quick screenshot of their interface that I took recently. I didn't have a screenshot of student work, but after seeing Listen Labs do a demo where they had, in this case, this is an example using a website, and you'll see there's a question here. What is your first impression when you see this website? And there's, oh, it's hidden down here behind me. There's a picture of me, they're using the webcam, and in one interface, they're asking questions, they're tracking what I do with the mouse as I interact with a prototype, a Figma prototype, and the AI is asking questions that people are responding to with natural language, with their voice, which at first I thought was super creepy, but it turns out sometimes people are much more open when they're talking to an AI agent. So in one package, they are testing prototypes made with Figma, recording people's faces, recording their mouse movements, recording their interactions with the screen, putting that all into a neat package, and importantly, drawing insights and high-level bullet points of where people ran into problems and what their thoughts were. When I first saw this demo, my jaw dropped a little bit because I'm of an era when we used to hire whole buildings full of people to do this kind of research behind a one-way mirror. It was a huge undertaking to do real and meaningful user testing. And I saw with Listen Labs that they were onto something that made that much more accessible. So I ran up to them and said, this is really cool, I'm a teacher, can I use your thing? And they said, yeah. And so that was how their interface looks. Instead of using a website, my students, like that parking meter, they uploaded their interface. This is examples of some of the output that they got. So if someone was asking of the parking system, did it feel approachable and intuitive? This that I've highlighted in yellow is an actual recorded user response. And then there's a follow-up. What was really interesting about this system is that with my students, I sat down and defined, what is it that you want to learn about your prototype? Again, I think we need to create additive context when we work with an AI system. So I had them define the questions they wanted to ask ahead of time to really focus what they wanted to test, which is how we typically do these things. But then there was a slider, as you set up Listen Labs, you could give it license to ask follow-up questions. And they found that it was really good, kind of scary good at asking that first follow-up question, and really effective. But after one follow-up question, it started to go off the rails a little bit, get quite insistent, and my students, as students tend to do, started to crank all the dials in Listen Labs and had it generating reports and making all sorts of, frankly, slop. So I think that's true of any system. We can tweak all the dials so it generates lots of stuff and goes off the rails, but within a well-considered use case, having come up with a few questions, defined those questions, using this system that allows you to get meaningful feedback from dozens of people. My students were able to send emails to their friends and family. Some of them sent it to their family back home and said, hey, test this new parking meter that I made. And for many of them and for the folks that they reached out to do this testing, it was their first time interacting with an AI system. We're used to it here in the Bay at a meetup like this, but for many of my students, when they sent their families an AI agent to talk to, it was a really startling and moving experience for them. So in any case, CCA and Listen Labs, it was a great experience. My students were able to actually test their prototypes and learn things in real time that often, if I just tell them as a teacher, it doesn't take. For example, this is Grace, actually. She's the one who made that particular parking meter prototype that I showed you earlier. As I recall, in her design, she had a place where users were meant to scroll horizontally. And if you're a UX person, you know that often we think mostly vertically when we see interfaces and screens. And if you want someone to move horizontally, sometimes you need a little cue or something. It can be a little bit unnatural and hard to discover. I can just tell her that because I've worked in UX a long time. It was much more interesting for her to create a prototype, test it, and get that feedback in real time from real people. And so suddenly this was really accessible in a way that I used to just talk about in my class. So they gathered insights on their prototypes, and it was really cool, I think, for the Listen Lab folks who came in and I think have probably updated their interface having worked with my students. So this was really cool. So AI user testing is here and profoundly powerful, but just like when we're making wireframes or demos, we need thoughtful additive questions and prompting that's based in research, design thinking, interviews, our own sense of taste built up over time, lots of sketches. All the human work of ideas is what design is all about. That's where the work is. The artifacts themselves have never mattered. It's the thinking and the thoughtful solution to a problem that matters. Our artifacts, especially if they're demos on the way to something that's going to be coded, are just these in-between states. The thinking is what always has mattered. So I'll wrap it up here. I'm probably maybe getting close to going over time, but I think the big question, having talked about all this stuff, showed you a couple demos, is then, well, so what? What does this mean for being an interaction designer? What does this mean for teaching? And am I good?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to go over. I respect everybody's time. So anyway, the big drawbacks that I'm learning as I teach with AI is that AI tools are a means, not an end in themselves. And I feel like this is so obvious it almost goes without saying. But I'm watching, whether it's sort of a desire to do a one-shot vibe coding or just cranking out a couple sentences and trying to do your homework to create a prototype. If we just reflexively use AI systems without doing the thoughtful work of design, then we're not really doing design at all. So I think we always need to approach tools, whether it's used for research or wireframing, as a means to execute ideas rather than as a place that generates ideas for us. And I see there's a little bit of back and forth in that as I work with clients and definitely as I work with students. And all of us are trying to learn how to use these tools at the same time. And then last, I think when I look at my students who are paying a lot of money to go to the California College of the Arts, or when I'm serving as a TA at Gray Area here in San Francisco where folks, it's more accessible, but they're still paying to come to these workshops and learn these things, I'm realizing that the most important skill, the one thing that I can help teach and help folks gain experience with, is to develop taste and problem solving. That's what design is. And it comes through coming up with solutions to lots of problems, whether it's a parking meter or an app or some kind of interface for a system that we haven't even foreseen yet. We're always creating something that is an experience that's solving a problem for real people in the real world. And to do that requires a sense of taste and skill. And that can be developed over time. The output has never been the wireframes or the demo or even the apps itself. It's the thinking behind them. And that's what I think we need to emphasize in our own design practices, and it's what I'm trying to emphasize as I still teach design. Even as we have tools that make it so much easier, there's a lot still left to teach and learn, and we still need humans, and we still need all of you as designers. So I'll leave you with another shout out to the design process. Just like AI, this is a tool that's a means to an end. It's the structure I use with AI to teach my classes. And this is from last semester. I had the privilege of guiding 21 students as they came up with ideas to help people change behaviors and habits. This was actually 2 classes together. You can see these these kind of similar looking, grinning, happy teachers in the background. That's me and my partner teacher, Dave Hoffer. And this was our class at CCA. So that's the end of my update on teaching with AI. I would love to come back another time and give an update on how AI hits the other parts of the design thinking process. Initial user research, which might lead in nicely to our friend from Dust who's coming up next, but also things like ideation. So hopefully I can come back and share a little bit more. With that, I'll just say thank you, and I'll take any questions if it's helpful.
Thank you so much. Beautiful discussion, yes. Do you guys have question for Dave? Yes.
I was just curious, maybe you'll talk about this later when you come back, but personas, do you?
That is a great question. So yes, I do use personas in my class. So often when we're doing that initial empathy work, I'll teach my students how to make personas, but I insist that they base them on actual people.
Are you interviewing real people?
Yes.
And then putting them in?
That's right.
Great.
So I usually, again, I think design needs constraint. So to help my students have that constraint, I'll usually define the audience for them. If anybody ever says something's for everyone, like run away from working with that person. I define the audience for my students as other college students, because that's the audience they can actually talk to and research. Yeah. So they talk to real people. We'll synthesize that into some personas. I wouldn't be surprised if there are tools like AI tools that help you do that already, right? But yes, we do that as part of that empathy step.
I want to ask you a question about why is your first step not define any problem, but empathize? So usually people start with apps or some projects. They look at the problem, and after they define problem, they usually get to all this. Why is empathize first step?
I would take all of these design systems with a grain of salt, right? They're not hardcore, we have to do it this way. I think you're often right where, let's say maybe independently we had an idea as we were parking one day and we said, these parking meters suck. There's gotta be a better way, right? So my idea, or maybe the beginnings of a problem definition, start to emerge. But I think to really define a problem, and this is human thought work, right? I think this is difficult to outsource to an AI. To really define a problem, let's say a parking meter, we might have that idea, but now let's see what the current problem is with people trying to use a parking meter. Like, oh, the screen sucks when it's sunny out, or it doesn't read credit cards very well. We may not necessarily use that to influence our design, but understanding how human beings are existing in the world right now, even if you have an idea to say for a new social network, right? Understanding people, I think, is necessary to a point. It shouldn't make decisions for you, but I believe understanding people is really important as you go about designing anything, because they're gonna be using what you design. The simple answer to your question is it's never like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 process. We might have an idea or see a prototype and then go back to do some empathy, but typically it's structured in this way that we begin with understanding people and then we iterate and so on. But it's fine to bounce back and forth, and indeed in my classes, sometimes we do.
Yeah, there's also some like new trend when people think that maybe AI will unleash the potential of a non-technical people, because AI automates a lot, and people that can empathize and can kind of be feel users and understand their needs might be more successful than tech people that are good at solving problems. But maybe the better skill would be to empathize, yeah, to use empathy to know users better.
Yeah, I think it's something I've been hearing a lot. Like when I look at LinkedIn, I've noticed a number of people posting articles and things like the role of empathy in an AI world. And I think there's a little bit of a concern that when we can just create something with a prompt, it's easy to maybe not spend as much time doing background research that we used to do. Why bother doing a survey or interviewing 20 people when I can just write a prompt, create something, maybe have someone use it, go back, write another prompt, create something. It's not a rigid process, but I think we miss something as designers if we don't take a moment to understand people. We're designing for, even if we use AI, we're creating something that an actual living, breathing person with lived experience, just like us, is going to use in the world. And I think it's important to ground our processes in that. Whether it comes first or third or wherever in the process, it doesn't matter really. But I think that's something that I notice in the design community. There's some concern that we will outsource all of that to just iterating in AI. So I try to emphasize empathy, but not to the point that it holds us up from proceeding. Like, we don't need to do 100 surveys. A student once asked me, like, listen, are we designers, or do we just talk to people and do what they say? I thought that was a reasonable question. And I was glad that they asked it in class. And I said, no, you're not on the hook for just doing what people say, but you are on the hook for understanding people as a designer and then making the choice that reflects your taste and your point of view, even if it's against what everybody is saying.
Thank you very much.
Last question, 2 more questions.
Hi, thank you. So 2-3 months ago, we gave vibe coding tools to our product designers in my company, like 7-8 product designers, and we asked them to start using it, just to prototype, to explore the possibilities, not to replace the design process, but just to understand what they could do with it. Yeah, the impact was huge. I mean, we would never expect that we will empower them that much because they were really creating code and not just prototypes on Figma or wherever. No? I'm curious of you, as senior designer that you are, what's your opinion on that? Because on one hand, yeah, we found that we accelerated a lot the process. We got insights way faster. We could really test prototypes with real users, with real data and things like that, and persistence and so on. But on the other hand, I had the feeling that as a chief of product in the company, that somehow the design process has accelerated that much that we somehow lose the control on the design process. No? Yeah, the question may be for you or if anyone else has similar experience, but it's something that is really in my mind at the moment, and particularly how this is going to evolve in the future.
I think I understood most of what you're getting at, the idea that you have designers, and even as you're encouraging them to use tools like this, there's still designers that you're engaging with in your company and so on. In any case, I feel like kind of what I'm noticing with these tools in the design process, if we use them in a really good way, if we're using them in a way that I think is generating results that matter, if we're making good design with these tools, I think it means more work for us as designers. Because we will be expected, whether it's doing that initial empathy work to understanding people, to making 3 high-fidelity prototypes in a weekend, over what used to be, we'd make 1 prototype on paper in a week back in the day, right? Now, that artifact of that prototype, which has never really mattered, only our thinking has mattered, I think we will be expected to do more nuanced, more contextual thinking, because we have these tools that make our design process so much more powerful. So I think in some ways it moves faster, but I think it also forces us to go deeper in each one of these categories of the design process. And I've noticed in my teaching, as these tools accelerate what my students are capable of, I have to teach them a lot more. It used to be we'd get to the user testing phase, and it was all I could do to get them to make that first set of wireframes. It was challenging. It's work they've never done before. For many of you, you are probably so used to it that you can start sketching a new app right away. For them, it was kind of paralyzing at first. But now that they've kind of learned and will be using these tools, I think they're expected to know so much more and make more meaningful decisions and create more meaningful choices and make design decisions that are vastly more informed than what we've been able to do in the past. And I think that turns into more and more relevant work, not less work. Just because you can make a demo in a couple clicks, where it used to be we had to painstakingly code this or make paper prototypes and walk people through it, that limited our thinking. Now those limits are removed, and I think more is expected of us, which is why I think just design thinking on its own is the most critical skill we can cultivate as designers and teachers and so on. So I hope that gets to a bit of what you were starting to get at with your comment. Are we,
all right.
it's
Yes.
time? Hey,
It's
thank
time
you
to
all
wrap
so
up.
much. I hope to talk to you again.
Thank you so much. Very powerful conversation. Let's finish with the last speaker for the night, Kevin, Head of Community at Dust. Let's give him a warm round of applause, please. Thank you.
Awesome. Better. Okay, let's do this. Hey everyone. I promise I'll be quick. I guess pizza or around the corner or something. So, hey everyone, my name's Kev. So you can call me Kev. Yeah, I'm Kevin, sorry. So first and foremost, thank you, Alison, for inviting us here. Thanks everyone for coming. We just landed in San Francisco yesterday, so it was perfect timing, even though the jet lag might start kicking in, so no worries, bear with us. I'll stay awake long enough and just crash later tonight. So I say we because, where is Max? Max should be over there somewhere, yeah. So Max is here with me, and we're building Dust together among other people. So question, who's hearing about Dust for the first time now? Cool. Okay, great. So let's start with a quick intro, and then off to the demo. So every company is laying out 2 AI plans as we speak. 1, how the product needs to change. 2, how the team needs to change the way they work. So there's purpose, or raison d'être, if I can say it in proper French, is the latter. And we think that happens by building AI agents to do real, useful work. More importantly, by empowering anyone within a company to build AI agents. So on our platform, teams can design, deploy, and maintain very specialized AI agents for internal productivity purposes, securely connected to internal data, powered by leading models. So our ultimate vision is to change the way humans and machines collaborate at companies to get more done, to be an AI operating system for fast-moving teams. So our co-founders, Stan and Gabriel, started Dust 2 years ago after previous lives here in the Bay Area at places like OpenAI and Stripe, and we're now based in both Paris and San Francisco. The core of what we need to solve is to get people from ID to an agent in minutes. We want to deliver these for anyone with the right mindset in 10 minutes. You start by designing custom instructions. I'll show you later. Then just pick the tools the agents can use. Folks want an agent that does the job, and focusing agents increases their performance. You don't want an agent that searches the web every time you ask for the office Wi-Fi password. Tools are where we put a lot of product work to make them powerful and keep them simple so you can connect to a database, search across the code base or Notion, generate files for report or generate code for a pull request. This is where all the MCP server fun happens, for example. And then it's about giving the agent its wings. What's it called? Who can edit it? Who can call it? Where do folks use it? Either on the Dust app, on Slack, directly on Cursor or Windsurf, etc. Again, keeping it simple and powerful here is the key to make sure you can go live quickly and start iterating. And then bingo, your agent joins the fleet of others that the company is already working with. At some of our users, hundreds of agents are completing tasks and workflows daily. And that's happening across functions at the 1,200 teams that we're lucky to work with already, some of which are the most forward-looking at the generation. The teams that are selling the products of tomorrow are using Dust to work today, the way we all will tomorrow. So let's go to the demo time. This is the website, this is one of the latest, by the way. Forward-looking teams, Cursor, joined the party earlier. So you can jump on dust.tt. Let's sign in. Boom. I'll go to like a fairly new workspace. So here's the platform. If I want to create an agent, just click on create. Right here, for the sake of speed, I'll use a template. Let's go to product. Let's take that one. Use the template. So here, template means instructions are already suggested, so we'll keep it simple now for the sake of the demo and keep these instructions. Let's pick up a model. You can choose whatever model you want, Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini, Mistral, if we stay French or whatever. Let's take it next. That's where you add, that's where the magic happens, literally, adding capabilities to your agents. So knowledge, adding tools. I won't add any one of them right now, just to keep that simple. Again, give it a name, we'll give that name, description, should be suggested right here, that's good. If I click that one, it means I will publish it to the whole workspace. So, and then I can add, people from the company who could edit the agent with me and collaborate with me on this specification, for example. Let's save that one. And now, where is it? Okay, let's do this. And let's give, let's revamp AI user group website. Right here, here. Yeah, where should we start? What should we do? So, literally giving us guidelines. So this is fairly simple demo, but still. So guidelines about what should we do, sort of roadmap, action plan, few phase. That makes sense. Give us success metrics to look out for, tools recommendation. Cool. Okay, let's keep it this way. Now, okay, I'll switch to the company workspace, and let's call Dust is like the first agent available to all of you when you sign up and jump on your workspace. Dust is an already existing agent that we design and build for everyone. So here it's connected to all our company data, etc., and fairly capable. Let's say I have to make a presentation later at this event called AI for designers. Here, let's give it the URL. Where is it? Here. Which use cases and agents should I use? Let's see. So now the agent is literally going through all the tools. We gave it to him, or her, anyway, gave it to it. Trying to find what this event is about exactly. Now having a good understanding of the event, sure, that's good. And then looking into our own knowledge base. Okay, cool. So literally, I could have only followed this. Presentation hook. Interesting. Okay. So now, if I continue, let's call. Okay, that one was good. I think it's suggested right here, UX writer. Okay, cool. New conversation. No, I don't want a new. Yep, let's call UX writer. Current tagline of a website called AI user group is, okay, let's take that one. Okay, I find it a bit cryptic. What would you suggest? So UX writer should give us a few suggestions. Yep. Eight alternative taglines. Okay, now let's be, what will be the best CTA that follows? Which is fairly good. Join the community being the current one, right? Yeah, join our community. Okay, anyway, so other example, let's call user research, which was one of the one suggested. Yeah. Give us an overview. An overview of user feedback from last month with a NPS above 50. While it's doing its thing, you can always, let's go, click on the thinking and see the different step. So you see here earlier test, going online, checking out the event web page, then looking at all the agents available, then specifically searching for design use case agents. So user research. Okay, so here is overall sentiment indicator. Okay, strong positive signals because, yeah, a specified NPS scores, like a high NPS score. Cool. Now let's call these. Make a chart out of this for our team weekly meeting tomorrow. Of course, I can give way more specific instruction. We'll see what he'll do, actually, which is as simple as that. Interesting. Okay. Fairly simple in that example, but you get it. What else? Okay, I think I've seen brand guidelines somewhere, so let's jump on the Chrome extension. Here's Dust blog, right? So let's call brand guidelines. Here's our company blog. Let's make a screenshot of all the page. Any suggestion? So he literally scanned the page, look for all the branding guidelines on Notion, probably, and make some suggestion if actually the blog is following our own guidelines. Okay, here would be better for you to look at it. Again, you can inspect and check all the steps, and that's how, depending on the output, and if you agree with that, and that's how, as a team, you collaborate on an agent and refine it over time. So what's the answer? Okay, we're pretty good. Anyway, and a few suggestions. Cool. Yep, so that's my email. So if you want to try tonight building your first agent, you can jump on dust.tt. We offer a 2 weeks free trial. You have my email though, so if you need more time, just reach out, mention AI user group or AI for designers. We can double that easily if you need. We're still a small team, growing fast, both here in San Francisco and in Paris, hiring across a number of roles, including a senior brand designer. Just saying. Sequoia led the Series A last year, so just about now is a great time to join the company. And that's about us. Don't be strangers, reach out if any of this sounds interesting to you. So both Max and I will be around for a little bit. And last but not least, we have another engineer coming to town next week, which means we'll organize not one, but two, actually, events, engineering nights. So if you go on Luma/Dust, so you could see 2 events coming. So these ones are very engineering oriented, but we'll have more events coming in. So that one is next week, people from Euro 11 Labs and Max, and one the week after with people from Apple and Replit. So yeah, best way to stay tuned is our Luma calendar. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Welcome in San Francisco. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any question? No question?
They smell the pizza.
All right. Well, let's give Kevin again another round of applause. And we will now go into the last part of the night before mingling with pizza. Who wants to come here and announce something? Please come. Everyone wants to announce something. If you're hiring, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for a beta tester, just come here, all right?
My name is James, and I'm looking to collaborate with people doing AI work. I'm a storyteller, short format, long format. My website is sfodesign.video. sfodesign.video. So look me up if you want to collaborate. Thank you.
Hi, how's it going, everybody? I think we should start off by giving Allison a round of applause just for hosting these amazing events, like all the time, free for the community. So how many of you guys are building AI agents, like actively? And then how many of you guys are actually, like raise your hand if you're not, you haven't built AI agents, maybe you go to events, you hear about them, but you haven't actually built them yet. Okay, so I've talked to a lot of founders, marketers, designers, and I think there's really a few reasons. Mostly, they're not production ready for certain things. Good with some tasks, not others. Or maybe you're not technical. You don't actually know, like you see these complicated flows, you don't know how to create that. You see these templates, but you're kind of confused. So I want to give you 3 real quick things that you can do to create AI agents right now as a designer in your business that you can use right away. So you could use it to kind of create an agent to classify emails, get rid of all the spam that you get. The second one is like basically finding leads across the internet, researching different leads, finding leads that are actually interested in your product because they're posting on social media. And then the third one is really basically finding viral topics at a certain time that like are happening right now instead of having to scroll through social media. I'm building a platform where you can create that if you're not technical. So if you're interested, I'll be in like kind of like this corner of the room, and I'd love to give you like $25 in credits to start out, try it out, and build your first AI agents.
Hello, I'm Aaliyah, and I'm a founder building an AI ADHD coach that helps people start their tasks. We've been to 2 international ADHD conferences, talked to over 100 ADHD coaches and the leaders of some of the largest ADHD organizations. And so we're looking for a designer who's really passionate about neurodiversity and really wants to, understand the user, the customer, and really think differently about how to approach this problem. So come up after and talk to me and let's chat. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roy. I'm on the Gemini UX team at Google, and I'm a UX writer. The gentleman that were speaking earlier, I think, kind of hit a note with me. I think there's a lot of text and implications about like talking to an agent, talking to AI, how to improve that, making sure it's conversational. So if anyone works with me, I have my own company called Quantum UX. Feel free to talk to me after the show. Thank you. Show, it's a show, right? Anyone else?
Hey everyone, my name is Adish Jain. I'm a high schooler over in Fremont. And on August 9th, I'm going to be hosting a hackathon along with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. So our goal is to raise $10,000 for cancer research. So if any of you would like to sponsor our hackathon, it's all high schoolers. We're expecting about 100 people. Please come up to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad. I'm building an AI agent, so thanks to everyone who spoke on them tonight. So over the last few years, we've been talking to ChatGPT pretty nonstop, and it actually knows a ton about you. It's pretty fun to take it out and ask it to describe you in, say, 50 or 100 very niche keywords that define your drives and curiosities. So we built something that takes your core interests and you can plug it in and it behaves as a passive search engine. So instead of you every day opening Perplexity or Google to type in something that you're searching for, we're building something called Graph that it takes your interests and it can find things for you every single day, whether it's published to YouTube or Substack or it's a paper or it's a tweet. What it does is it tags posts from thousands of sources with very unique keywords and tags, and it'll show it to you in your feed if one of your tastes or interests shows up. So it's actually just now available to use if you'd like. It's called graph.cx, and what it's doing, so it's graph.cx. And it's trying to behave like a friend would. If a friend knows what you're working on, it's really cool to receive a text message or a DM from them that says, hey, you might like this, it's super relevant to your thing. So it's trying to behave as one of those, and it's also capable of introducing people to one another based on like hundreds of mutual tastes, whether that's from YouTube or Spotify or ChatGPT or books, movies, anything. So it can basically Spotify wrap your interests from anything, and those behave as magnets to go find things for you. So yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jacob and I am founder and CTO and CEO, I guess, at this point of vibeflows.app, which is my vibe marketing AI. I'm building tools so that designers can connect to all the tools available. How many of you guys use Canva, by the way? Oh, awesome. Like Miro, stuff like that too. So like, I'm building basically a system that can go and search in thousands of agents, voice agents, video agents, and also MCPs. And it creates like an orchestration of agents that uniquely solve your design problem. So if you have any design automation in mind, reach out to me and let's have a chat. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm a content lead at CoCreate.careers, and in September, we're gonna have like a career fair for designers and founders to connect with each other. So if you're looking to hire designers as a founders, or you wanna be more in like, the ecosystem, we're part of the Design Buddies founded by Graceling. So this is gonna be like a really fun event for like y'all to like connect, chat, and yeah, cause like vibe and have fun as like designers and founders. So stay tuned for that. And we have like Luma/design for Design Buddies events. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, all the speakers. It's time for pizza, so let's meet and mingle now. Have an amazing night and see you again.